Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today as we share the new Turnpike alignment in East Norman. The South Extension Turnpike corridor in Cleveland and McLean counties will serve as an alternate route for Interstate 35 traffic, which today is often congested, and congestion, along with other factors, often leads to lots of crashes, lots of accidents, just about daily. We believe the amount of traffic and number of crashes is going to continue to increase as growth and development continues on the south side of the Oklahoma City metro area. Let's talk about that traffic growth and the need to provide a new route. Aside from I-35, there are no existing roadways today that can support the amount of traffic expected in the area in the next 2 decades, 40 years, or even beyond. ODOT has no surplus of resources to further widen I-35 in the Norman and Moore area, nor is it feasible with development along each frontage road. So let's face the facts, the DOT has no funding for timely and meaningful improvements to I-35 to address the growth and congestion that we are seeing. ODOT has sections of I-35 and I-40 that need to be widened now, both east and west, north and south of the metro. And those are all not currently in their 8-year construction work plan due to resource restrictions. The most effective option, which the legislature has envisioned OTA to provide, is to offer a new 4-lane, high-speed corridor that will provide an alternative route for traffic whose destination is not the Oklahoma City metro area, taking them safely around the busiest and most populous area of our state. This option will improve travel time reliability for our state's residents, the deliveries that we rely on, and the folks that are passing through our state for decades to come. The Oklahoma City Outer Loop has been in statute since 1987. This option we're talking about today will connect I-35 to the loop, and that has been in statute since 1993. Reducing congestion means increasing safety for all motorists. Adding new infrastructure also helps improve mobility. This provides a new South Canadian River crossing, which gives a new connection to I-35 for the cities of Noble and Slaughterville and all other area residents. The path of this new corridor, announced early in 2022, had to move west after the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation stated the corridor was not compatible with the designated federal uses on Lake Thunderbird land in Norman. That compatibility rejection was in late 2022. The Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled in August 2023 that the South Extension Turnpike route is consistent with a legal description in state statute and specifically called out that regardless of any design modification, such as moving west, the route is legally validated for the purpose of selling bonds to fund construction, which we have done twice. We have been delayed to this point. Litigation and the need to move the proposed roadway west caused delays in delivering answers on this project to property owners. We apologize for these circumstances preventing us from moving forward more quickly and providing certainty. The litigation and delay have kept too many property owners in limbo. The Turnpike Authority's goals in moving the corridor to the west were to impact fewer homes if possible and to provide certainty for homeowners as quickly as we could. Some have accused the OTA of not listening. The OTA created a website and phone number to receive comments, questions, and concerns, and since 2022, we've answered thousands of questions and received hundreds of comments, culminating in our recent round of public meetings earlier this summer where we sought input from area property owners at 3 separate open house meetings. We also have continually collaborated with state, city, and county staff and officials. Everyone is learning today that the South Extension has a new path, and you, the property owner, are our priority. We want to talk directly with you about what we know now and ensure that you are aware of your rights as property owners and what the next steps are for you. We recognize that there will remain some uncertainty while the engineering design work moves forward in the coming months. OTA is committed to answering your questions and expediting this process as much as possible. Next, I'll introduce OTA's Chief Engineer, Trenton January.
Thank you, Director E. Kelly. In revamping the South Extension Turnpike alignment, we looked at several factors, such as the number of impacted homes and avoiding subdivisions, dense developments and section lines, roads where possible. We also considered environmental impacts, such as less disruption to the potential rose rock formations, as well as considering municipal long-range plans and mobility for traffic in the area. Our engineers also looked closely at floodplains and tried to minimize the number of bridges needed while doing our best to provide a straight corridor that will support an 80-mile-an-hour design speed. It's not uncommon for a turnpike to have some reasonable curve around more dense subdivision developments and other features. And moving west about 2 miles still serves the greater transportation needs in the area by providing an alternate route. So now let's look at the alignment. So I'm going to give you some points of reference to give you an idea where this alignment is at. Here's where the east-west connector runs along Indian Hills. To the east is Lake Thunderbird. Norman is here in the middle of the area. Here's US 77 that leads down to Purcell, which is off the map. Noble is right here in this location. And then I-35 that connects with State Highway 74 is down here to the south and west of the river. And as you can see, we have a simplified interchange at the east-west connector with the south extension, starting here on the north end, between 48th and 60th Avenue. This is about a 500-foot wide alignment that is running from 48th, in between 48th and 60th south to State Highway 9, where there'll be an interchange at State Highway 9. And as you continue south of State Highway 9, you can see that the alignment moves to the east slightly, just to the east of 60th as you get closer to Noble. And then as you continue south, it crosses US 77 and the river and connects with I-35 with another simplified interchange at the bottom. The little areas here where there's dots, circled dots here, these are interchanges that could be possible that we will work with the city, the county, whatever municipality we need to work with to see if these is something that we will include as part of the project. As I said, it varies as you get south of State Highway 9, it moves to the east of 60th. And that we were avoiding, there are a lot of floodplains, wetlands, streams in this area that we were trying to avoid. It also lines up with the Norman AIM plan as well up here, and then also aligns with the proposed plan for Noble as well, a little bit east of 60th. As you continue west across US 77 and across the river, this section here between US 77 and I-35, there was not a lot of change to it. It's very similar to what we had proposed in 2022. This alignment, in comparison with what was proposed in 2022, is similar in the number of homes impacted, which is an estimated 75 homes. We recognize that this will be difficult for those homeowners, and OTA's pledge to them is to work diligently and transparently without them through the entire process along these next stages as we move forward. Once we get closer to the 60% design phase, we will be able to be more accurate with homeowners and property owners about exactly what properties will be needed to develop the corridor, as we try to minimize those further in the design phase. The northern portion of the south extension is expected to open to traffic by the end of 2032. From State Highway 9 south to I-35, it is expected to open to traffic by 2034. Obviously, there will be continued work along at the interchanges that you see on this map, because those are just going to take a little bit more time to get completed once we get the route open to traffic. I'd like to ask Access Oklahoma Program Manager LaDan Nelson to come to the podium and discuss the next steps.
Thank you, Chief. Hello, everyone. My name is LaDan Nelson. I am the Access Program Manager for the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and I am here to tell you all about the next steps that we have since we have now shared the new alignment for the South Extension Turnpike. We are going to be having 3 open houses. 2 of them are going to be in Norman, and 1 is going to be in Noble. For the first one, we have on September 24th, that is tomorrow. We're going to have one in the evening at the Nancy O'Brien Center of Performing Arts. For the second one, we're going to have that on September 27th. That is going to be at the NCED Conference Center and Hotel in Norman as well. That one is going to be on a Saturday. That helps with scheduling, that anyone that cannot come to the Wednesday meeting, we are hopeful that they can show up to the Saturday meeting, as it is a little bit more flexible with people's schedules. The last meeting is going to be on September 29th, which is the following Monday. That is going to be in the evening at Noble High School. So we strongly urge and encourage all of the impacted homeowners to please join us at these meetings. The impacted homeowners are in between 48th and 60th in the Norman area, and in between 60th and 72nd in the Noble area. Please help us spread the word to citizens as well as your neighbors. We want to be able to help you all answer any questions or any comments you all may have during this difficult time in you all's life. So please come to these public meetings. As we are moving forward with the next steps, these are next steps that we will have for our designers. So our design engineers are going to be currently working on the design phase, the pre-construction, and they are going to be working in these areas for about 12 to 14 months. So during this phase, there's going to be a lot of pre-construction activities, and we will progress through with all of the design plans, and we will be in discussions with the property owners that are directly impacted by the alignment. As we progress through the pre-construction phase and we get the alignment, the footprints all squared away, we will get with all of the remaining citizens and get in communication with them, making sure that we answer all of their questions that they may have during this pre-construction phase. Again, this will take up to 12 to 18 months. And during this time frame, we do plan on having some pre-construction activities ongoing, such as geotechnical and survey operations. So if you ever have any questions, please reach out to the Turnpike Authority at any time. So again, please help us by joining the meetings that we have displayed right here, as well as if you all cannot make the public meetings for any unfortunate scheduling impacts, you can always reach out to us via the accessoklahoma.com website or via the Access Oklahoma telephone number that you all will see to the left. So again, please reach out to us. Please spread the word to your neighbors, anyone, so we can make sure that we're answering you all and helping you all during this difficult process. And we want to ensure that you all know that the property owners are our #1 priority. With that, I'm going to pass this over to Director E. Kelly for final comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Trent and LaDan, for explaining all of that and some of the next steps. Just as they illustrated, this process is currently in the planning phase, and we'll be then transitioning to the pre-construction, just as LaDan discussed, where we'll be developing the plans and developing and establishing what the right-of-way needs are for this project. During the pre-construction phase, we'll work with our local governments, just as Trent described, to establish what resources we can leverage to ensure that we make this infrastructure best serve the locals in the area. Also during that time, we'll be working on relocating utilities. We'll be performing some of the environmental studies, which will all need to be complete prior to going to construction and moving into that construction phase, which is really the last last thing before you cut a ribbon, right? So just as Trent said, we're planning to open the north section of this, so that's from the east-west connector down to State Highway 9 in 2032, and the section further south that goes from Highway 9 down to I-35 in 2034. LaDan mentioned that it was to the left. It's to our left. It's to your right are the websites and an email address and a phone number for anybody that might have questions or want to reach out to us. And with that, I'd like to answer any questions that the media might have.
What is the cost of the new alignment and what was the cost of the original alignment?
So the question that we have is, what was the cost difference between the new alignment and the old alignment? Do you have an estimate on that? David, you want to talk?
I think at this point in time, we're assuming it's the same.
Yeah, I think so. At the basis, whenever we first announced the 2022 alignment, the one that was closer to the lake, most of those estimates were based on a per mile cost. And this is a very similar distance, so cost-wise, probably not a whole lot different as far as construction goes, at least in that aspect.
But that cost has gone up overall
Oh.
for the entire access project.
Sure, yeah. The follow-up question that I've received is lends itself to inflation. So when we first announced the program, it was $5 billion, 15 years. When we took into account the astronomical inflation that occurred over the last, it hadn't been so bad the last year, but the 4 years prior to that, that's what that $8.2 billion is, and that's all encompassing of the entire access plan. So that includes widening a huge piece of I-44, includes some pavement rehabilitation, includes new interchanges all over our network, includes widening the Kilpatrick and some work on the creek turnpikes. So all of that inclusive is 8.2, and we still think we're within that.
So what was the cost originally for the south extension? And can you tell me what it is now?
Do you know it? Okay, so the question is, what's the difference in price between the original announcement and today?
Thank you, Director. So as the Director and the Chief Engineer have mentioned, the alignment in length is about the same. And we have gone through with our financial risk analysis, and we do this quarterly. And we have programmed the South Extension for the openings on 2032 and 2034. So with those costs and the timeframes for inflation and contingencies, the amount still remains over $1 billion for the South Extension Turnpike.
So it started off at over 1 billion and you're still calculating it out over 1 billion?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I mean, is it a higher over on that? Or, I mean, how much over is it now compared to originally?
As we're going through the pre-construction phase of this alignment, we will be able to determine what the exact costs are, and we will be able to provide an answer. We will be able to give the exact at that time. But the pre-construction phase does determine that.
Question: what can homeowners expect at these meetings? So starting tomorrow, the one Saturday, when people come, what are they going to be, sort of greeted by?
Yeah, repeat the question. Go ahead.
So the question was, what did the property owners are expected for the public meetings? So the public is expected to have. We expect the public to provide us any questions or comments, and we are there to assist them on these next steps. And what these next steps are like we will have the pre-construction plans, or how are they impacted, or are they going to be like a piece of their property or the total property? We will go through all of those steps with them and give them options with our right-of-way agents.
Now, you said 75 homes. Is that an exact amount, or can that possibly change?
Go ahead, Trent. Or Dan.
So the question was, is the 75 homes an exact, or is it subject to change? So yes, it is subject to change as we go through the pre-construction phase of the alignment. There can be some shifts that are ongoing, and there are negotiations that happen with the right-of-way teams. So that number can go up or go down, but 75 is the general number. Yes.
Let me highlight just one thing. So when property owners take a look at this map, and you can see a much more detailed map will be shown on our website that you can zoom into. It's GIS, so you can zoom all the way down to a much closer level. But still, people have questions. You know, they see a line on a map, they don't know exactly what that means. What you come to these meetings for is to learn maybe one of three different things. I'm still not affected. Maybe it's you've got a new neighbor, the Turnpike Authority, or maybe you need to be paying attention to the right-of-way acquisition process. That's what the goal is, or maybe it's in the in-between where we just don't know that yet. There's a lot of survey work that's been done to this point. We've done aerial survey. There will be ground survey that LaDan talked about that will really true this up and establish exactly what that right-of-way line needs to be. Along the same lines, the second question about the number of homes, that lends itself to the same thing. You don't know until you've done the survey. The other thing that occurs, which most recently happened to us on the Kickapoo Turnpike, is we may have been in somebody's total back pasture, and when we are making these estimates, we assume that that is not a home impacted. Through the right-of-way negotiation piece, where the property owner says, look, I use this property for this, it's no longer going to be usable for that for me. I want to get out of this house, I want to move. They've been able to negotiate with the Turnpike Authority as willing sellers to sell that. So through that process, sometimes that number can go up.
Will any businesses or schools be impacted as well? Is that in the assessment?
So the question is businesses or schools, and I don't think so. I don't think that we have. I mean, unless somebody's got a business that's at home. You know, this is out in a rural, what is currently a rural area of East Norman, and on the east side of Noble. So it's not in an area where there are any direct schools. I do know that along this alignment there is school land, the state's school land, and so that's already state owned. That is one of the benefits of the alignment that's in front of you today.
I'm sorry, final question regarding the homes. I see that you have some offers here. What can homeowners expect the offer will be? I see that there's an average and then there's a commissioner's award. So what can homeowners expect for the offer?
Yeah, so let me walk through the question that I have in front of me, or that's been asked, is, and I don't know exactly what papers you're looking at, but there's what is the offer, what constitutes the offer, what's a commissioner's award, some of those things. So let me just, at a very high level, because I'm not the expert on right-of-way acquisition, but I do want to tell you what I know. The Turnpike Authority, when we establish that we need to purchase property, might be a sliver, a little piece, might be a total acquisition, and I may be thinking of something that's a vacant land, or this goes for something that has a house or something on it, okay? We establish that we need that property. That's done through this pre-construction phase where we're doing all of the design. We then we contact the landowner and say, we establish that we are going to need to secure some property from you in order to build this project. We send out appraisers. The appraisers go and have the opportunity to meet with the landowner. They're able to show them what's maybe unique about that property or something that we can't see without doing an interview basically with them. We then develop some comps, some comparisons. From there, we have a second appraiser that will review the appraisal, make sure that it's all complete, make sure that the comps are appropriate, and then from there we'll make an offer to a landowner. At that point, lots of different things happen, okay? And depending on what scenario you have and that you're thinking of, vacant land all the way to somebody's home, lots of different things can occur at that point. Sometimes people have said, well, they didn't capture that I just put in a swimming pool. And an appraisal, if you've ever bought a house that had a swimming pool or sold a house that has a swimming pool, you know that they're not valued very much in the house appraisal business. But if you just put it in and you haven't even swam in it yet, maybe, then you have a stack of receipts for what that cost. And maybe you put in a $60,000 swimming pool, then you need to be compensated for that. And the Turnpike Authority, I'm here to tell you that we're going to make somebody whole. Other things that can occur, kitchen remodels, bathroom remodels, things that they've had to do to their house or have recently done to their house that are different than a comp that is just a recently sold property. That is called, when we talk about negotiation, that's what I'm talking about, being negotiation, where somebody says, I think you owe me more money for this, and the Turnpike Authority is able to account for that, and if we can, And if it makes sense, then we're able to make an offer or make a counter offer based on that. The second piece that you asked about, and this is a long answer, but it needs to be, the second piece that you asked about talked about the commissioner's award. The only time it ends up at a commissioner's award is if it ends up going through the condemnation process, and that can happen for, again, lots of different reasons. The most common reason for the Turnpike Authority is because there is a clouded title, meaning that whoever's either living or operating the property is not the clear titled owner of the property. So sometimes we have to go through that condemnation court process in order to establish who the legal and rightful owner is, just so we know who to negotiate with. During that process, they'll appoint commissioners, which are typically area appraisers or realtors, and they'll establish an appraisal for that property. At that time, the Turnpike Authority can put that money up at the court, and then it will move into the rest of the phase of that process if it needs to. The Turnpike Authority is committed to negotiating all the way to the courthouse. Even after it goes into condemnation, we continue to try to negotiate to a settlement. That's why we're so successful, more successful than, well, just about anybody else I know that buys property.
Well, congratulations. Quick question. You mentioned that you're trying to divert traffic from I-35, and you probably better at maps than me. Can you give me a couple examples of the type of traveler, like their start point A to end point B, that this south loop would keep off I-35?
Yeah, so the question is around the traffic, the anticipated traffic that will use this new route, right?
Well, yeah. Well, you specifically said divert from I-35, and I'm curious who would be on I-35 and instead use this?
Oh, sure. Okay. So the question that I've got, and I got a lot of people probably watching from homes here, so I got to repeat some of these questions. I don't know that it's getting picked up, but who's going to use the route, and that I stated that, this is going to divert some traffic, relieve some congestion on I-35, and there's no doubt in my mind that it'll do that, but I'll illustrate it. So I-35, again, is down here at the bottom of this map, and this new turnpike goes east across the Canadian River, then ties into the east-west connector, which then ties in just off the top right corner of this map to the Kickapoo Turnpike and I-40. From there, it cuts north. The Kickapoo Turnpike goes north up to I-44. In Oklahoma, the largest freight corridor in our state where shipments come in typically are on I-35. It's our number one corridor. It's the heaviest on national maps, anything you look at in Oklahoma. A lot of those goods are not just trying to get from the Dallas, from the Texas area to Oklahoma City. They're not just destined for Oklahoma City. And so it's the people, it's the freight that's trying to go maybe east, maybe they're trying to get toward Shawnee out on I-40, or maybe they're trying to go northeast toward Tulsa, St. Louis, Illinois, Missouri, the northeast part of our country that use I-44. That's the traffic that we see on the Turner Turnpike every day. So what we're saying is that today, I-35 is congested. It's not congested all day. It's very congested in the morning. I'm going to say somewhere between 7 and 9 a.m. And then it's usually pretty congested at lunch. Didn't used to be. And then it's very congested in the afternoons when people are trying to get home from work from Oklahoma City back down south. What we're saying is that over time, not tomorrow, but over the next 20, 30, 40 years, traffic is going to continue to grow. I've heard the city of Norman say they need to build 22 or 23,000 more homes. When they talk about that, they're not talking about building homes that don't have garages. There's more people, more cars, more need for traffic, and more traffic demand on the south side of our metro area. We're just saying that there's going to be some traffic, and it's not everybody, and it's not a direct route. If you're trying to get from the town of Washington to downtown Oklahoma City, taking the turnpike may not be the fastest way around. But in the future, it might be the only way that's not completely at gridlock. And so that's what we're saying. We're providing an alternative for traffic.
Well, I guess my question is, you said it would divert, this has been sold since the beginning, it's diverting traffic out of the crossroads of America, right? But if I feel like, Google Maps shows me if I'm coming from Dallas, if I'm driving a big rig and I'm going to Tulsa, or I'm going to St. Louis, or I'm going to Minneapolis.
Takes you up 69, doesn't it?
Right. And I
So,
don't-
yeah. So the question is,
I-40,
mapping out of Dallas, and you map from Dallas, have you tried Fort Worth? Just a few miles, just 60 miles to the west, I think. Try mapping from Fort Worth, and you'll see that today it's a toss-up really between taking I-35. And I'll also tell you that if you map that using Waze or one of these intelligent mapping systems that is predicting the traffic that's ahead of you, it'll map you a different way depending on the time of day that you're going to make the drive. If you've used Waze or Google Maps, you can put in the time you want to be someplace and it'll tell you when you need to leave, and that changes based on the traffic that it anticipates that there's going to be. What I'm saying is that I-35 splits right there around Fort Worth, and yeah, if you're over in downtown Dallas and you map to the northeast, absolutely 69 is the most direct route. But if you're over on the west side and that traffic is growing, I-35 south of the Red River is already being widened by the state of Texas. They're adding additional lanes. This is something that we don't have the ability, we being the state, the DOT does not have the ability to widen I-35 through Moore and Norman.
How many homes were originally going to be needed for the original route? And is there overlap between that first list of potential home buyouts and the new one?
So no, so we comparing apples to apples. So the question that Steve's asking is number of homes on the south extension. We said 75 today. What was the number of homes in the previous design? And the answer to that is 75, or an approximate number. And again, it goes back to the questions that I was asked earlier about, that's an estimate because we have the ability to negotiate to acquire, if we need to, additional properties.
But this is a totally different list of homes?
Yeah,
compared to-
right, yeah, different list, yes, sir.
Is the Pecan Tree neighborhood among those that will be impacted?
I don't know that, I'm not familiar with that.
Do you ask if there's a location for the pecan tree?
Yeah, do you have exactly the location
It was on
or an
page
address?
3
Yeah.
of the original
And
route.
again, when we get into this, that's what the homeowners meetings were for, is so that we're able to get it down to it on an individual property owner level, and that's why we have these set up starting tomorrow.
What is your timeline for acquisition? So the average homeowner that says, well, when do I need to be out of my house? Like, what's the timeline?
Yeah, so again, the question is timeline on property acquisition, and again, you may not like the answer that I'm going to give, but that is that it varies, okay? When we announced these alignments in 2022, I want to give you both extremes in this case, okay? When we announced the new alignments in 2022, nothing ever really slowed us down aside from litigation on getting started on the east-west connector. Still, at that point, there were people, there are two I'll highlight. One is that there was a person who was building a house, and they came and said, hey, do I finish building the house or can I just go somewhere else? We went ahead and did early acquisition on that and purchased that property. Had another place that was for sale listed online, for sale. Willing seller, we called and said, hey, we'll do an appraisal. Would you sell to the Turnpike Authority? They said, sure. We bought properties. Altogether, we did 9 of those early, what we called special case early acquisitions. That was pretty successful. We were able to get some people that were maybe held in really a different type of limbo purchased. We also did some early acquisitions on some unique properties where we knew they were going to be impacted. They were able to then do long-term leases on the property. And then fast forward and contrast that, still the same alignment, we're still purchasing properties today. So we closed on some in 2022. We're still working to purchase properties today. For this south extension piece, ideally, we want to be able to do some of those early acquisitions, in the next, it'll be at least 6 months, probably in the next 12 to 18 months. But where we will know the property lines and where we'll be able to move forward with all the acquisitions will be in that 18-month time frame. Outside of that,
The overlap, you're talking Norman, because there is some in Purcell.
right? Yeah. So there are the properties that we're talking about. Let me get this off here. What a cord here. Okay. So the properties that we're talking about, when we talk about property owners and homeowners, what we're narrowing in on is, as Trent stated, we're talking about a 500-foot wide piece. This is a mile. This is 5,280 feet, okay? So we're talking about 500 feet wide. The Kickapoo Turnpike at its widest is about 600 feet, not around an interchange. At its narrowest, it's probably 250, 300 feet, relatively narrow. So we're saying today, since we haven't done all that survey, 500 feet. The homeowners that we are really wanting to speak to are the ones right along this line in East Norman and down here on the east side of Noble, down toward Purcell.
The chief engineer mentioned it could handle 80 miles per hour. Is that going to be the speed limit?
So the question is speed limit. Little bit of remains to be seen, and so I want to give a little bit of variance here on what we typically see as being a high-speed corridor versus one of our more rural turnpikes like the Kilpatrick or the Creek. They depend on how many interchanges there are, the amount of traffic that's coming in and out of the alignments. Also, it can depend on the amount of traffic that's on it. So if you look at the Kickapoo, not a lot of interchanges, built in a rural area, not a lot of traffic yet, and still growing. So speed limit's 80 miles per hour on it. As we see traffic begin to grow, we'll reevaluate that in the future. So it really remains to be seen how many interchanges we build. What our chief engineer was referring to is the design. The design will be for 80 miles per hour. That means relatively straight and relatively flat. That's what that translates to.
4 lane?
Yes, 4 lanes. Yeah, divided with a grass median in the middle. Just compared to the Kickapoo, that's the typical section, what we call a typical section. That's what it would probably look like.
And moving it 2 miles west roughly, do you still have to submit this to the Bureau of Reclamation for federal approval? Or?
Yeah, so the Bureau of Rec, in their rejection of us crossing their fee title land out at the lake, which was, again, over here closer to the lake, when they rejected that, in that same rejection, they said that they'd work with us on getting permission to cross their easements. Any stream that flows into Lake Thunderbird is one of those easements. It's the same thing I think that property owners have to go through. If you're wanting to build a new driveway to your house or something, you have to get permission to cross those easements. Same thing.
So you don't need additional approval, but for just whatever.
Yeah, we'll have to have permission to cross the easements, yes, sir. But not approval like to use. It's not the compatibility comparison that we had to do in 2022.
So of the properties that you required for the old alignment, how many were those and what's going to happen?
On the south extension of the property, okay, so we haven't purchased any property for the south extension, the alignment that was shown in 2022. The one that's just been updated today, we haven't purchased any properties along that south extension. That's why we've tried to get to this point, and that's why it's been a shame that we've been delayed to this point, because we've left so many people in limbo. I wish we could have gotten this drawn a little bit sooner, been able to move forward on that piece a little quicker.
So what's the traffic count going to be daily once this is fully open? Do you have any estimate?
I don't have, so the question is, what's the ADT going to be whenever it opens? We have a number that's in our traffic and revenue study for the last time that we went and sold bonds. I have to get you that number. That's going to be for the old alignment. Not that it's going to change much for this, but we will be updating that. But I can get you the old one, which will be very similar.
Will there be an effort to build access roads with this?
So the question that's been asked is, will there be an effort to build access roads? Like I said, we have communicated continually with both state and local officials throughout this process. Now that we have shown and shared this new alignment, this new and final alignment, we'll be able to work with the city or county or both in any location to see where maybe additional interchanges need to be, maybe where there's a sewer line that needs to be replaced or a water line that needs to be enhanced, things like that that are going to happen that we may be affecting with our construction anyway. We'll work with those locals to try to provide those extra enhancements if we can leverage those resources.
Well, will the trying to do an access road like it did on East West?
So the question is, and I'm going to try to capture it exactly, will the Turnpike Authority be trying to get access roads? The Turnpike Authority was never trying to get any access roads.
So the county, okay.
Yeah, we were never trying to get any access roads. We proposed that early on. That's based on conversations we had early with city and county officials. Thought that was best. Obviously, we got into a back and forth with the city about whether they were going to be able to ask for that or were willing to operate and maintain those frontage roads. The county stepped up, provided some vision, and asked for some interchanges and some frontage roads, and so far we've included those in the design since then.
So what I'm hearing you say is if, like, the city is saying no to an access road, if the county steps up and says we do want an access road, we do the same thing?
Yeah, so the question, again, is about access roads and who's requesting them. As I understand it, the county supersedes the city. I don't know a whole lot about that beyond that. The county, when you refer to the east-west connector access roads, the city didn't pass the resolution and the county did. We've been working with the county ever since and before. Other questions? Oh, yep.
So, Mr. Lackmeyer, I want to go back to the alignment question. The area from 77 to I-35 is relatively the same, so those are going to be some of the same property owners that were on the 22 alignment. So, yeah, so I just wanted to clear that up. And then I just wanted to address, as you heard Director E. Kelly talk about the right-of-way process, it is a process, and that is why we're encouraging all the homeowners and landowners to attend these events, because we're going to have those right-of-way professionals there that can help answer their questions. Whatever that question may be, they've done, this is what they do, this is what they practice, so that's why we're encouraging them to go to these homeowner events or visit the Access Oklahoma or make the phone call. The people that answer those are very professional, caring. They want to get those people the best answers that they can.
So with no other questions, I appreciate it very much. Yes, sir.
Randomly, just to end it, I'm curious, do you have any opinion on the Regional Transit Authority's proposal for light rail, commuter rail between Edmond and Norman?
We're in so the questions about light rail, we're in everything, all of the above state. Would love to have a rail line, would love the Heartland Flyer to continue. We need all the things we can get to help move people around. That's what we do. It's what I did when I was at the department. It's what I do here at the Turnpike Authority. We're just trying to move folks around. Yeah, in full support of a rail line, sure. With not any other questions, we'll wrap this up. Thank you guys very much for reporting on this today.